What's up, everybody? How are you? What's going on? It's Real Talk Chronicles. It is March 8th. Last thing I remember, we were just talking about Christmas and summer and everything else. Fire trucks and ambulances riding by. Excuse me. We doing it from home. This is what it is. I'm here with the panel today. I got my guys. I got Norm, got Kev, I got Rich, I got Ty. We will pick up on what we started discussing last week, and then we'll go into some other stuff. There's a lot of us share information with each other that we want to share and talk about with you all. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. Let me get some of the sponsors out the way. Of course, Soft Illusions, Art Gallery. That's my wife. If you don't know, she's going to get the shout out. Daily Arts of Survival magazine, #1 martial arts magazine in the world. The country right now, Ingram Taxes. It's tax season. People, do your taxes. If you need somebody to do your taxes, please shout out my people, Ingram Taxes. They will rock out with you. Chuck is talking about he might come late. We may not be here. It depends on our conversation. Last week we went to 9. We went old school. We went 2 o'clock. But Chuck might come on. He might not. Reggie Wells Quality Speakers. Mention Real Talk Chronicles, you'll get some speakers for $10 cheaper than what they charge. What else? Melba Wilson, Fine Cuisine, Leon Ellis, Chocolat, and of course Harlem Underground. With saying all of that, I'm here with my guys. Let me ask them how they're doing tonight. I hope they all are doing great. Saying all of that. Kev, let me start with you. I'm going from the top. Kev, how you been? What you been up to, man?
I'm doing well. I've been busy with work. I gotten a little sick for a while, so I was out with that, but I'm back.
Good. Rich, what's up with you, brother? Rich, can you hear us?
He's on that 2G. It takes just a couple of seconds for it to hit him. The audio's going to come through right about now.
Yeah, he acting like he don't want to talk. I'll go to Norm. Norm, what's up, brother? How you feeling tonight, man?
I think Rich is sleeping.
Everybody, I'm good. Kev, good to see you.
You too,
Ty, good to see you, my brother. Rich, good to see you. B Fly, always a pleasure.
My guy, always good to see you. Ty, what's good with you, brother? How you feeling?
I'm good, bro. I'm just here in A and enjoying the vibe, bro.
Yeah, that's what's up. I guess Richard come back to us. So, I see you loving God. Thank you always for chiming in. Appreciate you. We missed Monday. Al Taylor was sick, so I just didn't want to come on and let you all hear my thoughts and views on so many different things that's happening in this world. I could have, I should have, but you know what? Sometimes I need a reprieve and a break myself. So, let's talk about what's going on in the world. Hey, Sharon, we will pick up where we left off, but Tiger's having problems with his women again. Who cares? Trump is talking about running again. DeSantis still doesn't want people to understand history. What else is going on? Crime is still crime. I just got off. That's the reason why we are a little late, everybody, and I apologize. I was just on a call about public safety, and it's hard over there, and security of buildings and property and things of that magnitude. So, please be safe and careful in your travels. People are still committing crimes. It's red and blue. Don't let anybody fool you and tell you it's just one state of color, that's predominantly on the graphics. Kev, I'm sure he likes to do stats. He can correct us or redirect us to certain things. We have certain situations involving law enforcement coming up, resurfacing. It is what it is. Just recently, there was a situation. Where was that place at, Norm and Kev? It wasn't, and they just, it was a training facility. They just started
Atlanta.
throwing Molotov cocktails and all kind of crazy shit out there.
I
You
That
know,
sent
was
you the
here.
video.
That was here in Atlanta.
that was there in Atlanta, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were protesting building a site there, and what had happened was like a month and a half ago, one of the protesters pulled out a gun and shot at a cop, and the cop shot him, killed him. And they've been protesting there ever since. And now, as they're going through with construction, they're having a continuous protesting going on. So that's what it was, where they actually firebombed one of the caterpillars they used as construction equipment, and were throwing things at the cops. It was like, somewhat of a riot.
You know, we like I said, we're going to pick up with a discussion about are we the problem for our youth? Paraphrase it, but Rich, we're gonna pick it up a little bit because it's such a one part. It's not just a one parter; it was a two parter. But Rich, we asked everybody how they were doing, and you faded to black. So we're gonna ask you now, how you doing, brother? What's going on, man?
Hey, man, I'm good. I got the choice and the chance, man. I couldn't hear nothing you guys were saying. I had to restart my phone.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. You know what? Also, for all of us, I think the big thing that's been surfacing in the papers recently was that Chief Holmes changed the requirements for law enforcement in regards to running. I really want to know what everybody's thoughts are. I mean, if you're feeling what I'm feeling, what she said, I'm paraphrasing to a certain point. She said, no one is chasing a perpetrator, for those that don't understand police jargon, a mile and a half. You are totally right. But the bottom line is there are standards set, and I'm speaking for me. There are always standards set, and this is what the requirements are. Let me tell you something. There isn't anybody that went through the police academy can tell me that they didn't come out of that joint in the best shape of their life. You know what I'm saying? You ran every day. You were physically fit.
I haven't run since.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? You come out the police academy, you ready to try to run for the marathon or some shit. You know what I'm saying?
That's the problem.
So let me ask you a question, Rich. I don't know if you've heard too much about this. What's your thought process in the chief changing the requirements to come into the she said, and you'll get more female officers to be a part of that. I think I sent it to you guys, but the thing is, are we talking about equal rights for women, or are we talking about establishing a police officer, man or woman, to be in the best shape they are to protect themselves personally? That's where I stand at that. What's your thoughts, Rich?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, police officers, like you said, come out of training in shape.
Mm-hmm.
But then after you become a cop, you go to the Dunkin' Donuts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
mm-hmm.
y'all got a thing about them damn donuts and shit. But fire department people stay in shape because they carrying motherfucking bodies out of buildings.
Yeah.
You know, they stay in shape. It should be a requirement for you guys to stay in shape. I don't know if y'all got that same requirement as far as your handgun. Do you have to keep going back to get training on how to use your weapon to make sure you're firing correctly?
I wish they did. And Rich, I'm glad you brought that up. I wish they had a physical requirement, a health requirement, or a stay in shape requirement, where every year, at least one time, that you had to be able to do, I'm just saying, anything, 50 jumping jacks, 25 push-ups, be able to run up a flight of steps, some kind of cardiovascular thing where you knew that shit was coming up. Even if you knew it was once a year, to make sure you could do that, there should be you might say, okay, wait a minute. I know I got to do this shit at the end of January. Let me start getting in some kind of physical shape. an officer might drop 5 pounds or 6 pounds just to do that, to make sure he could get, get in shape. Because otherwise than that, they might put you on some little health restrictions or something like that. So you make a great point, Rich. Go ahead.
Hey, Bill, y'all guys got the Superman model. Y'all faster than a speeding bullet.
We sure. Listen, ain't nobody. Listen,
that's how fast y'all running. Faster as a speeding
let me
bullet.
tell you something. Yo, the chase. I never forget the one time I had to chase a guy, and I was listen. I got into the guy's ass that was driving the car so bad because he didn't tactically, and for all of us here. And we could talk tactics. I'm sure, Rich, you could talk tactics even when it comes to fighting or playing ball. Tactics are used in so many different aspects of life. But from a law enforcement standpoint, these guys will definitely know what I'm talking about. He didn't cut him off on the car. He went wide and gave him an avenue where he could just stop and then run. They didn't cut him. So I'm getting out the car. Young dude takes off. Let me tell you something. I thought I was chasing a fucking deer. And, and everybody on Webster Avenue was like, yeah, slow ass cop, yo, he's go. They was like, run, Johnny, run, Johnny. Let me tell you something. I came back to that car and I reamed him a new, you know what. I was like, yo, dude, if you don't know how to maneuver and evoc a car like the way you're supposed to, don't drive it ever again when I'm out here ghosting. Because you making me look bad out in these streets. So you know what? It's chasing we all know it's a young man's game is chasing. We do the paperwork, and you can want us to do the interviews and interrogation, but it's a young man game. 20 to 32, 35, I'll give you that. You chasing somebody. After that, listen, he's gone in the wind. What's his address? Kev, what's your thoughts, man?
I don't know where running has anything to do with sex, male, female.
Right.
Running 1.5 miles is running 1.5 miles. We might be able to make an argument that for women, generally, their weight is less. To run 1.5 miles might be easier. But I can't see any argument that jogging is a male-dominated event. I was just reading this, right? Last July, they lowered the standards also. So we lowered the time it took for the 1.5 miles. Or I should say we raised the time, gave people more time. We all went through this. You had to do the 6-foot wall. They changed it to a chain link fence to make it easier to climb because people couldn't get over the wall. Right? Like, enough's enough. Stop changing the standards. And then we're going to look at these cops and we're going to see incidents on the street where they're out of shape. They can't handle themselves with their hands. They're going to get into an altercation. And because they don't have the wind, they don't have the hands, what do you use? I use my stick. I use my gun. We're actually hurting where everybody's talking about and complaining about. The answer is putting cops into better shape and teaching them how to fight better and teaching them how to shoot better and teaching them how to deal with stress. Instead, we're telling them, you know what? We can't get enough of you, so we'll just lower the standards, and whoever comes. Thanks for being here. It's crazy.
But Bill said it earlier. Y'all come in shape. It's not getting in shape; it's staying in shape. What are you doing?
The truth is, Rich, most of us stayed. Most of us did. The guys I worked with Bill, the guys I worked with, we all stayed in shape. I make a joke about it, I haven't run since, but Billy, we were all in shape back then. We were all in shape.
I mean, listen, the shit we was doing, climbing roofs, and climbing, running across roofs, chasing people. We actually still chase people. Let me tell you something. I can honestly say, a good 7 to 10 years into the game, I was still in good shape. I can really say that. I don't know about a lot of other people. Ty and Norm, you can chime in on how you guys were, but the bottom line is, I can honestly say, in 10 years into the game, I was in great shape. I still was. I mean, but active house make you do active things. If you're an active officer, you're in the muck of the mire of things. If you're behind a desk, no disrespect to anybody that was doing some paperwork. Bless you. I always needed a 61 number. You know what I'm saying? Oh, ooh, did I take a shot at somebody?
Yeah,
But
bro, but that stuff should be a requirement, not a choice.
right,
100%, Rich.
No, we agree. We agree.
You got to twist our arm. We should.
Yeah.
That years ago they started giving us. You can go yearly for a run test with the NYPD, and they'd give you extra points on promotional exams because you passed the run every year.
Yeah.
That was a good move. And I'm with you, Rich. Firemen stay in shape. I live in the neighborhood. When I see a guy jogging, 90% of the time it's a fireman running through my neighborhood. Like they don't play around, because going in and out of those fires, they ain't running after anybody. They ain't chasing anybody a mile and a half.
Yeah.
But they know how important it is to keep your heart in shape.
Yeah, because you got to be responsible sometimes for carrying a life, your partner. You got to be able to pull. You got to be able to do pull your own weight. We used to have a saying: if you can't pull your own weight, you ain't no good.
Yeah, real fact, real talk. Let me bring the other fellas in. Ty, what's your thoughts on this, man? Chief wants to. Well, she's kind of changed it. This is so far. We got to find out what's going on after that, but hopefully it gets changed back. But this is what
when they first, like Kevin said, gave him more time to run a mile and a half. I was like, okay, that's cool, but the majority of us went in shape, and we got better in shape while we were in there, because we were in the gym running every day. And not only did it help build us up physically, but it also helped with discipline for people like myself, who was very undisciplined going into the police academy. I knew every day this is what I had to do and what I was going to do, and it helped discipline me. I think you take that away from when you take the wall and the runaway, because if I remember correctly, when they couldn't do it, when you failed off in the run or the wall, what happened was I think you went on some sort of wasn't modified, but you were
some kind of like what's the word, Kevin? What's the word that they call it, like
whatever it was, they held you where you had to either stay later and train harder to make it happen. And guess what? If you really wanted, this is
Return
what you
roll
wanted
call
to do. Yeah, whatever it was, you made it happen to get out of there, to complete whatever you had to complete to get your job. So like, I understand our job is different than going into a corporate job, but even in corporate America, you have to have certain qualifications before somebody decides they're going to hire you. Why diminish your physical qualification when that's required of you? Yeah, you don't have to chase somebody 5 and 10 blocks like we used to have to, but you still need to be in some sort of good physical condition.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, when you say you shouldn't have to chase somebody, however, whatever the distance is, so there's a limit on how far you'll chase somebody before you
No, what I did was I gave an example of, we're not specifically running 5 and 10 blocks like we used to after somebody who committed a crime. So what I'm saying is, I understand that what the point she was making, the chief was making, but also you still need to be in good physical condition to do the job. The job, no matter what you're doing out in the field, it is stressful. So you have adrenaline rushes, you have stress factors that go on while you're doing the job, and staying in good shape helps with your blood flow and all the organs in your body. Staying in good shape. You don't want someone who takes a job and now they go out there, and the minute they have a adrenaline rush, all of a sudden they have a massive heart attack. God forbid.
Yeah. Norm, come in and chime in on, brother. So before we open it up and talk about something.
Well, just piggybacking off what Ty was saying, you have to be disciplined, because that day that you're going to go in there and run a mile and a half. And as you get older, they give you more time. You know, Bill, you know, when we come in, you're in halfway decent shape from playing ball.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, so everybody's different because some people weren't athletes in school. So sometimes you have an advantage over certain people because you were an athlete.
yeah,
But what they should do is have them run with the equipment on, you
yeah.
know, because
That's a good point.
it makes a difference when you got 10, 15 pounds extra on you. Sometimes it depends if you got, depending on the kind of vest you have on, that's another 30 pounds, you know, of equipment and vest and everything else.
Yo,
So you,
I've never seen anybody in armed forces out of shape.
Yeah,
it's a few, it's a
I've
few.
never seen military people, Army, Navy, Marines. You have it.
But when they
I've never
first go
seen them
in, when
while
they
they're
fir-
actively on duty, in duty, out of
Mm.
shape
because
because
it goes back to what I
because
just said.
lives are on the line,
Yeah, but it
right?
goes back to
But
what I just said.
how
It's
is it
about
that
discipline.
police officers, by and large, and maybe not you guys, but you know that the majority of the cops that you seen is fat, out of shape,
That's
can't.
not true. That's not true. I wouldn't agree with that.
I
No, but
wouldn't agree with.
I agree with you about the armed forces, and why they're like that is because they come in rough around the edges, and now they want to break them down and discipline them. So they put them through the rigorous PT, physical training that they go through, where they remain in shape, and it becomes a mind thing. Like Bill and Norman and myself, we all played ball before we went in the academy. So running a mile and a half wasn't anything different than us running before practice, doing suicides, you know, running up and down doing a 3-man weave. It wasn't anything different. And the one thing that I could say that what the academy did for me was this: from a mental standpoint, I don't know if I've ever ran a mile and a half before, but once I did it, I knew I could do it again. So
Right.
now if I had to, if I ever went into a mini marathon or wanted to run for a benefit or fun, I was like, well, I did a mile and a half in the academy. I know
That
I
was
could
always a
do,
prerequisite. I could do
yeah,
that.
I
I could
know
do it in the academy. I could do it again.
exactly.
Right, right.
It's about certain accomplishments from a
Yeah.
mental standpoint, you know.
Yeah, let me ask you guys a question. We got a question that comes in, and I'll start with you, Ty, and then I'll go to Norm and Kevin, Rich. Excuse me, everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I got my guys here: Kevin, Ty, Norm, and Rich. Loving God says, "Can a law enforcement turn a good adult into a corrupt adult?" I just read the
Absolutely.
questions.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah, and it could go both ways.
right, right.
Being in law enforcement, and I'm only answering because you said you were coming to me, right?
No,
So,
absolutely. I came to you first. Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
yeah, because if it depends on your mindset and where you come from. Just like you could be a bad adult and go and go into law enforcement and all of a sudden become a good adult. You know,
Yeah.
you can be a bad adult, and I mean a good adult, and turn around and go in law enforcement, and the environment around you. Let's say you got around a bunch of law enforcement that had a negative mindset or a bad attitude or whatever have it. That preys on someone who, especially a younger adult, you know what I mean? Because now they feel like they want to be like them or impress them, and they start acting indifferent. So yes, she's absolutely right.
Well,
He's I'm sorry, he's
that's
absolutely
all good. Norm, what's your thought process on it?
For me, I believe it's environmental and mental. You know, the people you hang around and the people you associate with. And just like Todd was saying, when you go to a job, the people there have an influence on you, either positive or negative. So you can turn, I think everybody has a little corruptness in them, but it's just up to you to keep it internal.
Hmm.
You know, you get bribed, you get temptations, you know, it's things there for the job that you see that you're like, okay, this ain't right. Now, are you gonna continue letting it be wrong? Are you gonna right it? So, and then you like, it depends on who you're working with, on how they bring you up. Because you always have a training partner, and the way they train you may not be the right way.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it could be environmental and mental, because once you see better, you do better.
right, right.
Once you know better, you do better.
Hmm.
I think all our parents told us that at one time. When you see better, you do better. So
Yeah,
it's a moral thing also. That's why a lot of contracts have moral clauses in them.
good point. Good point. Uh, Rich, what's your thought? I mean, we're talking about corruption. That's basically what the question is about. I mean, he puts it in law enforcement standpoint, but uh, can law enforcement turn a good adult into a corrupt adult? What do you think, Rich?
I've been around a lot of people, celebrities, and what have you, and I grew up with some of them, and I've watched how some people, once they get money, they change, or this is what they say, they change. And I say, no, they didn't change. It just allowed them to be who they actually are.
Okay.
Money and power, you know. And I'm from the South. My family's from the South. I mean, they have a saying in the country, and it goes like this: you can paint wings on a pig, but if you throw it off the roof, it still can't fly.
Okay.
Whoever you are, that's who you are. So if
Right.
you go into law enforcement, and I know last week some brothers was talking about they had a calling for it, you know, and I don't know what that phone call said, but some people go in there with the sole purpose of they got power now, and they become a part of a group that
We'll pick
has
that back up
power.
too. I'm glad you brought that up too. But yes, we'll definitely pick that up. Yeah.
They come behind, with a group that has power, you
Hmm.
know, and you got some guys that, I mean, like let's talk about basketball. I play ball a little
Yes.
bit, maybe not as much as you guys, but I played a
Oh,
little
knock it
ball.
off! Knock it off! Stop playing! Stop playing with our emotions.
But
Go ahead.
listen, you have guys that come on the team and they just happy to be on the team.
Yeah.
You know, real elite players, we go to practice, but there's shit that we do that they don't even do in practice, because I want to be better than the motherfuckers in practice.
Hmm.
So I want to be at the top of my game. But when some people go, and it's not just law enforcement, it's any field you might want to go in. Once you become part of it, they just settle for I'm a part of it, you know.
Yeah.
But as
All
far as
right.
that corruption piece, I mean, a person could go in and I guess okay, you can get corrupted, but it's got to be in you already. Whether you're a cop, whether you're a lawyer, whether you the motherfucker that's working the register at the grocery store, you
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
it's
Right.
in you, and it's not even about how bad you're doing, financially. You got morals and you got standards, and if you was raised a certain way, that sticks with you.
Hmm. All right, Kev.
All right. So I don't know if it could turn if you really are a good person into a corrupt person, but can it turn a good person into somebody who kind of has a blind eye to what's going on? You may not join in,
That's a
but you
different
kind
point.
of you kind of do this because there's too much of it going around you. I mean, I can't tell you how different my career would have been if I was you go over the years where there was true corruption, right? Like the 3-0 had its time, the 7-5 had its time. And if I was assigned there as a rookie working with those teams, where my life would be today. I can't guarantee you, like I wouldn't have, turned the blind eye. I could guarantee I wouldn't have took $1. That I can guarantee you. But turning the blind eye and being able to get yourself out of it, I don't know. I have always said, though, the most important position in any police department is the training sergeant, the training officer. that first influence young cops have is incredibly important. You know, who you met first, who teaches you, who shows you the ropes. You don't learn anything about policing in the academy. You learn about policing when you first become a cop on the street. So that your first influence is vital. And I don't think, look, in my years at NYPD, we didn't take that position seriously enough. It wasn't put as high esteem as I think it should be. But I think it's the most important position in any precinct is the training sergeant, the training cop.
Hey, Kevin, you said you don't learn anything in training about policing?
In the academy, you don't learn how to be a cop. You learn a lot of things about law. You learn some things, but you really learn on the job.
What
You
actually
can't
do you learn?
teach.
What do you learn in training?
You can teach.
He just
law.
told you. He said you learn law, police science, and social science. But what you really
That's not what
learn
he
is
said.
when you.
That's
Yes,
what
he
you
did.
just said.
Well, they interpret it. That's what I mean.
And that's what he said, Rich.
Thank you, Ty.
That's what you just said. I'm asking.
No, Rich, that's what he said.
That's what Kevin said.
Kevin got a mouth.
He said it though.
But Kevin has a mouth.
All right. Bill, before we go on to the next subject, can I just say something
look,
to clear this whole
let me
thing
say,
up?
let me
hold on. Let me get some order. Go ahead, Ty. Say what you want to say, then we'll go back.
Let me just say this. The question was a very good question, but like Kevin and Rich said, it applies to all occupations and all lines of work. Okay, a mentor of mine said this to me a while ago, and it always stuck with me. And I know Bill's heard me say it to the kids. Your skills, talents, and abilities can take you anywhere you want. But if your character doesn't sustain you, you're going to fall off no matter what occupation you're in, no matter what line of work you do. So that's all. But go ahead, Rich. You want to argue with me? You go right ahead.
I wasn't arguing. I was asking Kevin a question, and you jumped in like he needed
Kevin
an attorney.
Answered you.
No, you jumped in like he needed an attorney. I'm asking him a question.
All right. Come on. Let's
See what I'm saying?
let me say this though.
Hold on. Oh, yo, Kev. Yo, Rich got the new you. You know what I'm saying? He got the new you. He going to him and Ty. They like to argue. I got to Skip Bayless and the what's his name?
Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp, and I love Shannon Sharp. Let me let Norm comment, and then I'll open it back up to Kevin Rich real quick. Go ahead, Norm.
But just to piggyback off what Kevin was saying, when you first come on, rookie, first year, when you're in the wrong crowd, if you don't participate, they look at you like pretty much a snitch, IA. You know what I'm saying? They look at you funny if they're doing something and you're not participating. Yeah, you're turning a blind eye to it, but they're like, why aren't you participating? Why aren't you taking this $10,000 from the drug dealer? You know, you see what I'm saying? It's not like you want to be part of it, but it's like you have to so you can, for your own safety. If that makes sense.
Real quick. Let me just say this to you guys. Let me say this to you guys real quick. The peer pressure to be corrupt is harder than anything to be with integrity. I'm gonna tell you a story offline. I'll tell it to you separately when we go into the green room after the show. If we got enough time, I'll tell it to you together. I know of a story that is so much higher than what we're talking about, and I know somebody that lost their career. I'm talking about to a level far bigger than this NYPD shit. I'm talking about in law enforcement, but far bigger than law enforcement. I know it personally. I know them personally.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm telling you that it made the news, and it was crazy. And when I found out about it, I was like, oh wow. So I say all that to say that and it's going to segue to two different questions. I mean, if you and Kev, Rich, you want to comment on something, then I'll let you do it. But let's understand this. When we talk about integrity, you try to be around like-minded individuals. in lieu of what Kevin was trying to say earlier, but like Kevin did say, and then Ty put the period on it. When you go into the police academy, all they talk about is police science, law, and sociology. And then they talk about integrity. You know, they got the integrity officer, whatever that room was that we had to go up in if you get in trouble and shit, right? Like, oh, parade rest until somebody calls your name. F that BS, right? Because the police department was so big on integrity and paramilitary. And then what happened? The dude Stagmeyer, or whatever he was, he got caught on he got jammed up on some shit. One of the lieutenants, because it was Johnson and Stagmeyer, and then Stagmeyer got caught up on some integrity shit. So it is what it is. I say all that to say that when you come out, you're eager to learn. It's just like Rich, you know, when you're the new cat on the team, you're going to try to, you know, you try to be liked. You want to get in. Like, okay, like think about how the rookies were in the NBA when we could talk about sports. I don't know about hockey. I don't know about football. But in the NBA, the rookies used to have to carry the bags and the balls and stuff like that. Norm, look, like when I came on in Hunter, right? Coach, after a while, he's like, yo, you got to, you know, you got to be the manager. I got redshirted. I was like, what? Then one time, you know, you talk about, yo, sweep the floors. I was like, I'm fucking be flying sweeping no fucking floors. I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? That's that Harlem shit took over. And I was like, I'm ghost. But what I'm trying to say is there's always like, what is it? A hazing. With police department, you come in, it's a lonely world on a foot post by yourself. It's a lonely world when nobody wants to talk to you. It's a lonely world when, you know, they think you're a rat. Let me tell you something. That whole blue wall of silence, it's more stringent inside the police department in the precinct that you work in than anything. You know what I'm saying? Because the outside world, you'd be like, yo, I can get rid of you. I'm with these people 12 hours a day. Like Kevin and I can talk about it. I got along good with these guys after I went to SNU, but I was the only black guy that went to SNU. The sergeant, excellent street sergeant. Spocky, I will give him his props. Excellent street sergeant. You might lose your job fucking with him, but yo, he was an excellent street sergeant. But no, listen, you want on a 85 or 1013? I want to see a Spocky come through that door, right, Kev? Like let's keep it 100. He's going to teach you how to get paid, and he's going to teach you the job. But when I first came to Snoop, Kevin is right here. I don't tell a story that ain't true, everybody. I always tell a story that somebody can co-sign it. They thought I was the snitch for the CO. Right? I'm the only black guy in the precinct.
That's because you were.
Yeah. They thought I was a snitch for the CO. Let me tell you something. Nobody was talking about come with me to lunch. Let's go out. Let's do this shit together. Yo, I had to earn my stripes. Kevin and I had to be on a roof, damn near 6 stories up in the on the 6th floor building, dangling over roofs for him to know that I was, yo, I'm with you with this shit, bro. This shit is crazy. So I'm just trying to say, it's a lonely world out there, Rich, and everybody listening. And I see the questions, loving God, Sylvia, and I'm going to read them. And I see Rocky just put something in. Anybody, please subscribe to it. We're on YouTube. That's Ty. That's Kevin. That's Rich. I'm Bill Forster. I hope I mentioned everybody. So it's a lonely world out there. That rookie phasing, that hazing, the job. Like for anybody that's old school with law enforcement, when you come on the job, Rich, they tell you, be seen, not heard. You don't come out here asking questions. Shut up. Do what a senior man tells you. That book, they always tell you what you learned in it, and correct me, fellas, what you learned in the academy is only goes for the law, arresting somebody. How to be a police officer, you're gonna learn that on the fly, or you're gonna learn that from a senior person, right? I mean, am I good, fellas, with that? All that, Ty, Rich, Ty, Norm, Kev, because it's a whole different mental out there. I'll let you and Rich, Kev, you and Rich, if y'all guys want to comment, I just want to read some questions. So I want
to wrap the two things in together. Now think about what we're talking about, you know, having the courage, the fortitude, the discipline, and being taught the discipline in the academy. And now we're taking our academy and putting less discipline and less standards. You know, we're not going to give those cops, you know, part of what we need to make sure they have the backbone to be that strong person on the street. I think we're in for a recipe of disaster. But Rich, throw this whole thing together as well. I don't care what job you have, what you went to, you know, college, you got a degree in something. You don't walk in the first day of your new job and you know your job. I don't care what that's all we got. We got a degree in policing. We went to college, got a degree in policing, and showed up to go on the street. You learn that on the street. You learn everything when you start your job, not from the schooling.
And Rich, I'm with you on some things. I mean, well, this is my personal feelings. I don't know if you've heard it. I really don't feel a person should come on at 21 and become a police officer. I think you're a child. I really don't. I think you need to respect some rules, and the rules are life. If at 25, you might accrue some bills, some college bills, or some credit card bills, or you may have had another job before that and learn some responsibilities. You come at 20. How many officers came on, Kev, Ty, Norm, and Rich? You may even know this. 21 years old, you still living home with mommy. Your first job after that was Carvel, McDonald's, and now you come into the police department, and then you get a gun, and then you go to take somebody's life and tell them shut up, sit down, be quiet. Come on, man, it's a wrong job. You don't have any responsibilities. Yeah, anybody?
Bill, you and Kevin could probably know this answer. What was the in high school they used to have the ROTC, where the kids used to be able to go to the police station. They had the uniform.
Yeah,
they had everything but the gun.
Explorers. We had explorers up here. Yeah.
Okay, now that should be something that goes on for people that want to be until they turn, I don't know, 22, 23. They should be like an explorer where they're learning how to be a police officer. They're learning the book sense. They're learning, they're being taught policing, but they're getting on-the-job training without being on the job.
Yeah. I mean, listen, every job has orientation. Every job has some kind of thing. The police department's orientation doesn't start it starts after the academy. The academy is just a prelude. It's just like somebody going for military person. I'm not a military person, but you train a person in the military. You train them to be programmed, and then you send them out to war. God forbid they go to war, and then they come back with what's the PT whatever the thing. Yeah, and then listen, a person from World War II or Nam, you ain't talking to them crazy. They snap the fuck out and break you up. You know what I'm saying? And I know I learned that almost firsthand. I was at a bar, and me and this guy started getting into it. We started snapping and talking shit, dozens. And then he was like, "Yeah, that's the same shit this motherfucker said to me in war." And And I did this. I was like, "Oh, I bit off more than I could chew right now." He started staring at the wall, drinking and spitting. I said, "Yo, I was a young puppy. I didn't want that smoke." I was like, "Yo," he started talking and slamming and gripping the glass, about to break the glass. I said, "Yo, give that cat another one on me. It's all right, Reggie. Relax. I apologize because I don't know what you've been through. I don't understand that. The fact that, you know what's so funny? For some people to take one life is traumatic. To be in war and you got to take multiple lives, I don't understand that. You understand what I'm saying? I say all that to say, let me read some comments with questions in here, because these some questions. People got some questions. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my man Kevin Branzetti, Ty Butler, Norm Davis, and Rich Williams in the building, baby. Loving God said, I'm going to read a bunch of statements. I want to make sure everybody's acknowledged, and then I'm going to go back, fellas. So Loving God said, isn't a whistleblower a representation of integrity? Sylvia said, yeah, we was talking about stuff. The true colors will come out. Shout out to Dana. She's in the building, my niece. Sylvia said, how do you guys feel about seeing your superior mistreat a perp and a rookie comes along and tries to stop it, how would you deal with that? That's a great question. Loving God also says, what about law enforcement who consume alcohol on the clock? Derek Rock is in the building, baby. He said everyone drinks the Kool-Aid until they wise up and wake up. Absolutely. When we're talking about being on this job, yeah. Shout out to my man Scott. One fish, two fish in the building, man. Sylvia says, yes. Once the academy is over, it's a whole nother thing. Loving God says also, are people saying that they're working to stop crime while committing crime with immunity? Isn't that what we call con artists? Loving God also says, to the genuine good guys, we appreciate your efforts forever. Sylvia said, my son was an explorer. Oh, wow. Okay, so let me go back to the first question that was put to us. Isn't a whistleblower a representation of integrity? And I'll start with you, Kev. I'll go to you, Norm, and I'll go to you, Ty. And then, Rich, I'll come to you last on that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a whistleblower represents you have integrity. It depends on what you're blowing a whistle on, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Rich, you laugh.
No, you're right, Kev. Because let me just say this. Let me tell you something. I used to drive the bus. For those that don't know, I worked for transit before I went to NYPD. In transit, I don't know if it's still to this day. I don't know if I don't see my transit people. You can receive gifts when you drive in the bus. At that time, when I was in transit in the early 90s, 92, 93, whatever, 92, 91, you could receive gifts. Your passengers could come and say, here's a bottle of scotch. Here's a gift, big ass gift, whatever. You can receive gifts. With NYPD, you could not receive a coffee. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, right? You could not receive a coffee. We had to go to places that were cop friendly. And what I'm trying to tell everybody out there is that if you went someplace, right, that was cop friendly, you did something nice, but we still paid. You understand what I'm saying?
I'll say it. Did I ever get a free coffee? Yeah, I got a free coffee.
Right. But so when we talk about integrity, am I going to rat Kevin out and say, oh shit, let me go to the ICO and be like, yo, Kevin got a free coffee? Get the hell out of here. I'm not going to do that. But bottom line is, listen, you go to a place, like say if I opened up a restaurant, I'm going to let the precincts know, the adjacent precincts and the precinct that I work in, that I'm a former law enforcement, and you can come here and you might get a discount. But the bottom line is integrity. You got to put $1 on the table. It may not be $10, but you got to put $5 on the table. You know what I'm saying? I'm keeping it 100. The bottom line is it is what it is. But that's not something that you're gonna take away from the job. And listen, we live in a world where nobody likes law enforcement, no matter what city, country, state you are. And and I would be skeptical to be in a place that everybody likes me. Because just because you like me, you liking me for a reason. Everybody wants a DEA card. Everybody wants a PBA card. Nobody who doesn't want. Let me tell you something. At the end of the day, everybody wants to be like, yo, can you? I'm sure Ty, Norm, Kev, Rich, even as a person that has connections with law enforcement or anything with the city, you telling me you've never received calls? Can you do this? My friend got arrested. This and that. Oh my God, yo. Like, who told you I was a police officer in the fucking first place, bro? Like, you calling me. Go ahead, Kev. Come on, and then I'll go to Ty and Norm and then Rich.
No, I mean, that was it. That was what I was getting. And I thank you, Bill. That's what I meant, Rich. There's certain things I'm not gonna scream that's corrupt. When technically, is it corrupt that Bill got a free cup of coffee? Yeah, technically, in the rules and regulations, Bill can get fired for that.
Yeah.
Would I ever make a call and say, Bill, no? Now would Bill, if I was in the back of the car and had a perp cuffed and I started punching him in the face, is Bill going to let me get away with that? No.
Yeah.
No. If he was driving the car would stop short and Bill and I would be wrestling in about 30 seconds.
Absolutely. Real talk.
Right. Like that's a different kind of category. So that's what I'm talking about. it's not that simple. It's not as cut and dry. But there are cops out there who think, like, oh my God, Foster got, like, they'll come back to the precinct, like, Bill got a free cup of coffee. And they're gonna go tell the integrity control officer, and they're gonna start filing paperwork. And you're like, what are you doing?
But
And it has happened. It has happened to officers.
I don't think the question was about a free cup of coffee. You know,
integrity is a wide
I
scope.
was just giving you the whole spectrum, my friend. That's all.
when it comes to
Now, if somebody was tuning you up, Rich,
it was probably time.
in relation to the whistleblower and integrity, I'm quite sure the question wasn't related to a cup of coffee. I think what Kevin was doing was probably giving an analogy. If this goes back to a young person coming into the academy or coming out in the street, just getting out of the academy, and they see these individuals they want to impress or they're looking up to on the job, and they're doing things like hitting individuals after they're in cuffs, or taking money, or going in on someone's house on a DOA and stealing from their house. These are integrity issues where they should blow the whistle, but like a cup of coffee or a bag of chips that was given to them and they didn't pay for it, or a sandwich, absolutely not. That's in relation to that question. The whistleblower is considered a snitch, but it all depends on what level you're blowing the whistle on somebody. But unfortunately, on our job, we're held to a higher standard. They want you, the powers that be, to whistleblow for everything, from a cup of coffee to the more serious thing where someone's being assaulted while they're in handcuffs or stealing money or valuables.
And Ty, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are people that held buying a coffee and beating a John Q or Jane Q public up on the same level. They'd be like, well, wait a minute, a tell is a tell. Like, wait a minute. And if you didn't see the coffee, don't see the ass whipping. And that's the crazy part about this job. Like, you can't differentiate between the two. Like, come on, man, this job wasn't built for that.
But then
go ahead, Ty.
I was going to say, then people like that didn't need to be on the job because they don't have a level of common sense or mindset to be able to differentiate between the two. You don't need to be here. You need to be somewhere in corporate America, sitting up in somebody's HR department, dealing with whatever you got to deal with there.
Yeah, I've seen the most religious person in the precinct take a free cup of coffee. Norm, what's your thought process, Norm?
Well, when you're retired, or even when you're on the job and your days off, I don't know about there, but sometime here, I know here in North Carolina, when you go to the outlet, when you go to the stores, period, they have military discounts, but no law enforcement discounts.
That's crazy. Right.
And as far as the integrity part go, when you're going into a new precinct, it's a lot of old school values in that precinct where they feel like this has been going on for so long that it's the norm. Where when you come in and you're like, wait, that's not supposed to be. From evidence coming up missing, or borrowing evidence, even arresting a drug dealer and taking the money. That's been going on for so long, and here you come along, and you're stuck between, should I tell, or will I get it? If I need help, will they come and help me?
Yeah.
That's the worst feeling is when you call them for help, and they're like, "Ain't nobody, we don't have no cars in the area," but I just saw them drive by.
Yeah.
So you got to. I know they always say you got to pick and choose your battles, but when you see, to me, I'm not going to stand there and let you hit somebody that's cuffed. I just can't stand there and let you do that, because when they were uncuffed, you didn't hit them. You know,
Absolutely.
it's been plenty of times where I tell them, look here, I'll take the badge and gun off, and we can go hand in hand. If
Yeah.
you win, then you go on about your business. You know, hey,
Absolutely. Yeah.
we all took L's before. We all took an L before in some form or fashion,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but our integrity makes us who we are. And a lot of people don't realize that this job is nothing is no to me is no reward in this job. Is no to me is no loyalty in this job as far as the job itself. The people, you do meet some good people that's lifelong friends, but the job itself doesn't care about you. That's
Yeah.
my personal opinion. That's just my personal opinion. And it's like an asshole. Everybody got one. So that's my
Absolutely.
personal opinion.
Yeah.
But we make our bed. We make our bed. We got to pick and choose our battles. So I'm sure we all seen some things that weren't right, and we handled it in the way we saw according. And,
Yeah.
and you know, that's 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 how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Real talk. Rich, Rich, before we go on to the next comment and question, you got any comments you want to say on this topic with us?
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
First, I want you to mute Ty so I don't get interrupted. Right?
He
Mute
like,
his ass.
yo, Ty,
All
you the
right.
new Kevin. Ty, you the new Kevin, bro.
Mute his ass. All right. Now, as a civilian, the only one on this whole panel,
Right.
we look to law enforcement to do just that, enforce law, not just to the civilian, to anybody that comes up to turn into a perpetrator, i.e., that cop next to you that's breaking the law. Now, we see it as civilians. Whether you're in the street doing your thing, hustling, whatever, we see the cop that came to arrest you breaking the same law he came to arrest your ass for. And the partner who says he's not a part of it will stand there and let it happen, right? Now, he can't say anything because that's the culture that you guys signed up for. Now, I listened to the brothers saying how they came in and it was already established, you know, this shit is systemic in that system, right? But if we can't count on the cop to impose justice on whoever the perpetrator is, whether he's a cop or a civilian, then who's going to do it? That means that cop has a license to do whatever he wants to do. Now, I listened to the brothers on here before talk about how, you know, they just won't work with that person. All that's saying to the person is, you giving me free reign to do it because you ain't here. But if you're an officer tasked to uphold the law, and if somebody's breaking the law that's a cop, he's not a cop no more once he crosses that line. But you still giving him cop privileges while he's breaking the law. So I just listen to what's being said about, you know, how guys that's on the job, you know, they don't want to do it this way, they don't want to do it that way, and you're going to be called a snitch. And I mean, how does a person in law enforcement even worry about somebody talking about I'm a snitch? And like I said, I'm not talking about a cup of coffee. I'm talking about straight up breaking the law. I mean, I'm 62. I'll be 63 in July. My father ran the streets as a number runner. And I used to see cops. They used to carry an extra pistol just in case they shot a motherfucker. They would put that gun in his hand.
Throw away.
Yeah. And other
I had
cops
that. I had
that
that
claimed
conversation with
not to be a
somebody.
part of that shit knew it happened, but wouldn't say nothing about it.
But Rich,
And I don't
I've
know.
heard that phrase too, and I got to
I
tell you
can't,
something. I ain't
I
never
can't
seen a
speak to,
throwaway. I ain't
I
never
can't,
seen that occur.
I can't speak to a community outside of my own or how it's being policed because I don't live in those suburbs. I don't live in those areas where, you know, where people, my colored people don't live there. I just know how in the neighborhood that I grew up in, how it was policed, right? And how I watched some good cops. You know, I saw good cops and say, "Oh man, don't do that," you know, and wouldn't allow that shit and had a certain amount of integrity to them, right? But then you had those cops that just wanted to be on the team. So I'm on the team. I'm not really trying to do nothing but be here.
I'm confused. I'm trying to find out what's your question exactly, because the bottom line is, I
don't have a question. I made a statement.
Okay, what your statement is? Are you saying that how can we trust law enforcement when they won't do something?
I'm speaking as a civilian. That
no, I know what you. Yeah, go ahead. Because
coming up in the streets or what have you would watch cops break the law, that they were arresting other folks for doing the same shit, like drug money, taking the drug money, or taking the drugs, or committing a homicide, right? While working with other cops that wouldn't snitch on what they did, even though they didn't believe in what they did. They didn't like what they did. They wouldn't tolerate what they did, but they wouldn't go as far as to put handcuffs on that motherfucker, or go to internal affairs and be that witness. Now, before these cameras came along, right? Every time there was an incident where somebody had gotten wrongly killed or whatever, cops always beat that shit, right? Because the only time in New York City that a cop got convicted of something is when another cop testified against the motherfucker, and that's when that guy.
I'm not gonna agree with that. But let me just say this. Let me just interject for a second. First and foremost, I think everybody out there listening, you saw Serpico, right? I'm going to say that and leave that there. But I'm going to also say, I think you're asking this panel a question that we can't answer, because that means if we answer it, that means we saw it. I've never seen anybody do anything to somebody and I didn't say stop. I haven't seen anything to be put in a position to say stop. You understand what I'm trying to say? Or
I'm not trying to put nobody in no position on this panel to get in any trouble, whether legally or with your other cop friends. I'm just stating facts from what I've seen. Personally.
None of us can get in trouble here, Rich, but we're telling you, we've all been on the job. We all came from we had different experience. None of us seen that.
I never saw a throwaway. I've heard of them, and I think with that throwaway situation, I think a lot of that occurred prior to us coming on the job.
Yeah, that's the Bumpy Johnson era. Yeah,
era, that 70s and 80s era.
Yeah. Lucky Luciano shit. Yeah.
Well, not even that far. Well, not even that far back. 70s and maybe early 80s. I think a lot of that occurred, and that's when you had a lot of corruption in the department with the NAP commission, and when I heard Bill mention Serpico. But as far as anything like someone being beaten in cuffs or someone doing something blatantly illegal, if I saw something, I said something, because it was when I came on in the early 90s, it was a known fact. You ran and you got caught, cops would beat you. And
you took that ass whipping. Yep.
And I could tell you there was numerous times I stopped cops in uniform. I wasn't on patrol but so long, but while I was there and it occurred in front of me, yeah, I stopped them like, all right, you got him. Whether not to cut you off, but whether the person being arrested was black or white, because I worked in a precinct where it was both. So, and both committed crimes. And I'm telling you, both got beatings if they ran, whether they ran in a car or they ran on foot, and they eventually got caught. And that was prior to when you could still chase a car.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you ever witnessed a cop breaking the law to the degree of, like what you just said, beating somebody that was cuffed?
Yes, I just told you, and stopped them.
Shooting somebody unjustly.
Yes, and stopped them. Yes.
And
stepped in and stopped. Yeah, and stepped in.
Okay. So the intent was there to do bodily harm or what have you.
Well,
but you never.
I'm not even going to.
Did you ever speak up on it?
Yeah, I just told you.
Other than the person?
No, I'm not going to run to supervisor. I could tell. Well, I could tell you this. Wait. Before you comment, I just thought about something. Before I left, right? Because 18 years of my career, I was on a task force, right? Federal task force. And so you saw feds come in younger and older and whatever have it. And I remember on one arrest where the way the subject was taken out of the car and thrown down on the ground in the water because it had been raining.
That was me.
No, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. It wasn't you. And I did say something to his supervisor, and I don't know what happened after that. I don't know if he turned around and said something to him, negative or positive, because he could have turned around and told him, "Listen, be careful what you do around Ty, because he's not favorable the way you handle." But guess what? And you can excuse my language because I don't really curse on this, but at that point, I really didn't give a fuck because I had already paid my dues. I had done what I had done in my career, and at this point, I'm at a point where I'm at a teaching stage where, like, yo, you didn't have to take him out like that. He wasn't resisting. He was wanted for what he was wanted for, but you got him. You opened the door and you pulled him out, and all that technique of pulling him out and putting him down on the ground was unnecessary, and especially because it was raining. Now you put the dude in a puddle. And I said, and now that you say it, because believe me, I've done more than I've forgotten. Right? There was a time when I said something about a sergeant to another sergeant, to say something to him about the way he arrests somebody, and it was the middle of a summer, and we see the subject, and we know the subject is there because the informant's standing with the subject, and the informant already told us where the subject was, what he had on, and we're moving in on him, and here comes the sergeant. He wasn't my direct sergeant, but he was a sergeant in one of the units, and he comes running down the block with a gun in his hand in the middle of summer. Why I say in the middle of summer? Because there's kids in the park, and we're right next to the park, and tackles the dude in the street. Dude wasn't running. Dude wasn't doing nothing, and handcuffed him. Someone else had to handcuff him because this dude got a gun in his hand. And yes, I said something. So yes, I was someone who spoke out on occasions, but it was far and few between on the occasions that happened. But go ahead, say what you want to say, Rich. I won't interrupt you again.
Nah, you do it. You so long-winded, I forgot what the hell I was saying.
If that ain't the pot calling the kettle black.
Yo, everybody, hold on. Yo, that's real talk. That's real talk. Hey, yo, that's both ways. That's real talk. Let me tell you something. Kevin, get your flag. We're going to throw that shit in a minute. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. That's Richard Williams. That's Ty Butler. That's Norm Davis. That's Kevin Branzetti. And I'm Bill Forster. Listen, it's sponsored by Soft Illusions Art Gallery. It's sponsored by Deadly Arts of Survival Magazine, Ingram Taxes. Yo, and it's also sponsored by Real Talk and Love. Malika does websites, design interaction. And listen, if you got questions, comments, please put them in, and we always here willing to give you our best advice and expert. Sylvia had a question for you guys, and I have more questions coming up. She says, "How did?" And I think we kind of touched on it, Ty. You just did. So I'll go to Norm and Kev first. And she says, and Sylvia is former law enforcement corrections. She says, how do you guys feel about seeing your superior? If this, Ty, you kind of answered it. So I don't know if you just may want to just touch it for a second. I'll go to Kevin and Norm. I have never seen this. So how do you guys feel about seeing your superior mistreat a perp and a rookie comes along and tries to stop it? How do you deal with that? That's a hypothetical question. I'll read it again. How do you guys feel about seeing your superior mistreated perp and a rookie comes along and tries to stop it? How do you deal with that? Norm, I'll go with you and then I'll go to Kev.
If there is, I ain't seen it.
No, because I'm thinking about when I first started as a rookie, and we had a kid that was shoplifting, and the sergeant was like, the sergeant mistreated him. And I was like, yo, what are you doing? And the sergeant said, stay in your place. And I'm like, but he's a kid. You don't treat a kid like that. And I said, well, why are you arresting him instead of just, if he's stealing food, he's hungry. And I got a tongue lashing. And the superior wanted to write me up
Mm.
for disobeying the direct order of handcuffing him because I didn't handcuff him quick enough. And when he handcuffed him, he it's no reason to twist somebody's arm with the back of their hands up behind their neck. That's just excessive.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Well,
And
well, well, I will say this, Norm, and I'm sure Kevin can co-sign this or contest to this. We've seen other nationalities mistreat other nationalities because
yeah,
they were less of a man than just doing their job. You know, like I said, and shout out to all the wonderful law enforcement officers of different ethnicities that have just done their job to the best of their abilities. That's why Kevin is here with me now, because I've known him to be of quality integrity. You know what I'm saying? We've even had our conversations of what's blue and not blue and things of that. But the one thing is I knew Kev went by the law. You understand what I'm trying to say?
yes,
I don't know what his personal feeling may have been at that day. Who knows? And I'm just using this as an example. He could have been coming to work and got pulled and got cut off by a Latin person, Hispanic person. Do I think Kevin went out there for his tour and looked for every Hispanic person and wanted to write him a ticket? Absolutely not. But if he pulled a Hispanic person over and they started cursing at him, I'm sure they probably got that ticket. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But you know what's so funny? It is a crazy world that we live in. And you know, Ty, I think somebody said it earlier. We are held to a higher standard. I think Ty, you did say that. But people don't want to be held to a higher standard. And this is the time when I'll speak up in that aspect for law enforcement. Listen, yeah, we want to be held to a higher standard. We want our perks. We want to be able to park where we want to park some places and do what the hell we want to do. You know, like I've never called myself a cop, da 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 da. I always said I was a police officer. I had a friend of mine, we had a great conversation not too long ago. And he says, yo, I'm a cop, I'm not a police officer. And I sat back and I listened to him. And I had to understand what he was saying. And this was from a brother. He was like, yo, I come to solve the crime. I'm not coming to take the report and do this and do that. And at first I was like, okay. Then I was like, I'm not mad at that. That's his mentality. It still doesn't stop his integrity. You understand what I'm saying? For doing his job. He's just not the dude to do the paperwork. He wants to come and either make the arrest or give the disposition. He's not coming to sit here and be like, okay, you go over there and you go over there and you talk to this one and I talk to. He's not that dude. He wants to come and solve the crime. I had to respect that gangster. I, on the other hand, I wanted to be both. I had no problems being a police officer and coming in and half of this job, everybody knows 85% of this job can be sociology, you know, being a psychiatrist. And then I had no problems putting cuffs on you either. You know what I'm saying? If you're wrong, I'm going to take you in. But I had no problems finding out if you were right or wrong first. You know what I'm saying?
but Bill, I said this before. This job is not an easy job.
Right.
Because it's times, and you and I had this conversation where we're the only ones that go out there to go to work and may not come home at the end of the day.
We had that conversation the other day. Yep.
Yeah. After I tried to commit suicide, I still need mental help for it.
Yeah.
Because of the things I've seen, the things I've done in the line of duty that I thought was right. And now I look back on it and I say, it was right, but I could have handled it a different way. So it's a thankless job.
It really
You
is.
know,
It really is.
if we got strong brothers in blue that stand by us, we got strong family support. That means a lot because it is. And I Bill, we talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
I still have nightmares.
Yeah.
I still don't sleep. I haven't started drinking yet, and it is what it is. But everybody hates us until they need us.
Yeah.
Nobody want to see us in the neighborhood. Nobody want to see us arrest Ray Ray. But then when their house get broken in, we the ones they call.
Yeah.
When their car gets stolen, we the ones they call. And so for the civilians that look on the outside looking in, put yourself in our position. And I never thought about it like this. When you go to work, you coming home after 8 hours. We go to work for 12. We not make it past 2.
Mm. That's real talk. That's real talk. Yeah. Kev, you muted. You muted.
I was just saying, I don't even know what the question is anymore.
Nah, I don't. The
Well,
question
back to
was
the integrity thing.
no. The
seeing
question
nostalgia?
was Sylvia had asked. She's former law enforcement too. She was like, "How do you?" It's a hypothetical question because if you haven't been in that situation and you don't have the answer for that, she says, "How do you feel? How do you guys feel about seeing a supervisor mistreat a perp and a rookie comes along and tries to stop it? How do you deal with that?" I personally still. I've never seen that because, we have at the era that we've been in that I've never ever seen a rookie, and a lot of times I think civilians kind of can't see that picture until you gotta I sometimes I always wish I've had this discussion with my uncles and other people like sometimes you need to walk that path because I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I would have did this, I would have did that." You wouldn't have did shit. You know what I'm saying?
If you would have done it, you would have been a part of it already.
Yeah.
That test is easy.
I've never seen more people tell people how to do this job that haven't done this job.
Now you don't have to even run anymore. Come take it. We just made it easier for you Monday morning.
So that means why don't they just change the age requirements now and let anybody on this motherfucker? You know what I'm saying? Excuse my French, but just because the bottom line is, I used to always say this, and I think we all can understand this. You get pulled over by a state trooper, even though you was law enforcement, you'd be like, "Oh wow, like he looks good in his uniform." You know what I'm saying? Like he or she, even a female, you like they came to the car fit, sharp. Listen, we got our hat to the back, we got our tie clip off, we don't care. It's almost like you got the worst of the worst sometimes, and they still was able to pass the psychological Rich and Ty and Norm. You know what I'm saying? So, like, how did they get past this shit? There's so many rebels with this job. You know what I'm saying? We talked about all the integrity that we witnessed and saw on this job. This job we lose about 20,000 in the first. And I'm just talking about beers and other kind of nonsense and time. There's so much that other people. I've never seen. I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna go. If any of you guys got a comment after that, y'all can say it. But I'm gonna go on to the next question or comment. I've never seen more people that have not been law enforcement that do more lack of integrity on their own personal lives and jobs hold us to the integrity that they want us to have, that they don't do that on their own personal life. If that makes sense.
Let me ask this question to Ty, Kevin, and you, Bill. Hell, even you, Richard. Knowing what we know now, would you do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's part of my whole entire life, right? It's made me the man I am today.
You're fresh. you don't know
But do it
the
in
ins
this
and outs
era
yet.
in 2023. Like do it again as a rookie today.
Yes.
I gotta tell you, I'm second generation cop. I got 4 kids, and I don't want them to become cops
Yes.
in this era, and that's sad to me. That if you would ask me 10 years ago, I absolutely wanted to see one of my kids become a cop.
Let me say this, Kev. That opinion, that thought process you just had, I think parents have had every generation. You know what I mean? And because every generation sees society get worse and worse and worse. So when we came on in the 90s, I could see my mother didn't want me to do the job, even though she pushed me to take the test, you know. And then in the 2000s, there was a problem, you know, you had stuff that was every generation, it changes. I think it's bad now because we're older. We've seen a lot more and we've done it. But I wouldn't, I, I, I think if I had a choice to do it all over again, it wasn't something that I wanted to do, to be a police officer. But if it went the same way, I would do it again. I'd do it again.
I would do it in
Coming,
my era again. I would do it in my
Yeah.
era again. I think even if I was new and coming on at this era, could I make it work? Probably so. But see, my connections are totally different now. So do I bring my connections to this new era? Yeah, because my connections would be different. Back then, my connections were similar, not as strong as they were. But the bottom line is, I'm like Kevin. I'm not second generation, but I'm generational. I'm second. So I'm what I'm trying to say is that I had family that was already law enforcement. Um, I call him my uncle, and so but I didn't even know until it got on the job. Rich, let me ask you a question. If you had a child right now, and they were at the age where they wanted to be a law enforcement, would you tell them to become law enforcement?
My daughter is going Friday to take the exam to be corrections.
Okay, good
Right.
for her.
So,
I wouldn't advise it though.
well, when I think of policing, for me, it's not exclusive to being a cop or a police officer, right? To me, policing goes back to me thinking in my childhood how the men in the neighborhood and the women policed the neighborhood. They kept the neighborhood safe, and it wasn't just about keeping it safe. It was about creating a whole culture and an environment where we all, as kids, could grow up safe and have a healthy life, you know, and have experiences where we had a good time, we enjoyed things, we shared our good and our bad together as a community, and we policed our own community. Now, sure, there was the part where if somebody robbed a store or did some shit like that, that's different. But for me, policing is more than just making an arrest or dealing with the worst part of it. To me, it's about prevention. When I worked in the school system, I worked in Board of Ed for 35 years, retired in 2017. I worked most of my career as a dean, right? And I was like the police officer of the school, right? So I was dealing with whatever happened, kids smoking weed, kids robbing, kids selling, doing whatever they did. I dealt with that, you know. And the other part of that was also dealing with kids that were kicked out of classrooms because the teacher said this happened. I would literally investigate what the teacher said. I didn't just take verbatim what the teacher said and ran with it, you know, because sometimes these kids come up in an environment where you don't know what's going on with them till they get into the building. They can be hungry. They may not have went home last night, or they may have been home and had to sleep in another room because their parent was in the other room with their people smoking crack or whatever. So you have to examine all of these things And my stuff was more about trying to prevent the life of a kid, or anybody for that matter, getting worse than what it was. I was trying to be a blessing, right?
Right.
But be firm at the same time. I wasn't like trying to be soft on you. I was trying to make you own whatever your situation is and make you do whatever you can to make it better for yourself. With my assistance, I was willing to extend myself to help you outside of this building. You know, I used to get called in the office by my principal all the time telling me I'm spending too much time talking to these people. You know, I worked in a group home for 10 years for hard to place kids where no group home wanted these kids because they had records. Some of them had pending cases of robberies, and one dude had a homicide. We did random searches in the group home where we found shotguns, pistols, brass knuckles, switchblades, you name it, packages of crack, all of that, you know. But my thing was about trying to change a person's life, because you come up in certain circumstances don't mean you got to stay like that, you know.
Right.
And my experiences coming up as a kid, I was involved with certain things myself as a young man, you know. But my life changed, and even my hypocrisy only went but so far. You know, me being in the street only allowed me, my upbringing only allowed me to go but so far with it. You know, that the brakes went on when it got to that point where I wasn't raised like that. You know,
Got you.
I
So,
got to
Rick,
pull back.
Rich, let me just say something real quick. Let me interject for a second. You said something in the beginning of your statement about the community that you came from. Would you agree with me today that community doesn't exist in the way our children were raised?
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this program and the last program.
And we'll finish off with that. But I just, go ahead.
It's the reason why it's not. I mean, it's not just not like it used to be for no reason. It's the reason why, you know, and we got to start owning the reason and make that change.
Anybody question, comments before I go on? And because we'll come back to that. You know, I have a lot. Excuse me. I have a lot of comments and I want to read them. But anybody wants to comment on that real quick before I go forward? If not, I'll go forward. Loving God asks a question. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-hosts Richard Williams, Kevin Branzetti, Ty Butler, and Norm Davis. Subscribe to it, please. Share it, like it. Loving God said, this is like a loaded question. If anybody wants to answer it, they can. I mean, I'm always going to answer any question to the best of my ability, if I can, without trying to jeopardize anything else. But Loving God says, what about law enforcement who consume alcohol on the clock? I don't know what you want me to say about that. I think people have vices. I mean, am I going to put somebody? Yes.
When I went to IS-10, the dime, right? Frederick Douglass. They call it Frederick Douglass now. We call it IS-10 back then. And I never forget, I had a teacher, math teacher. His name was Mr. Williams.
Yeah.
We used to call him Meathead because he had meat in the back of his head.
Mm-hmm.
But he used to have a Listerine bottle on his table.
Yeah.
And he would drink the Listerine, go like that, and never spit it out.
Everybody knew what the shit was, right?
Yeah, but he was a hell of a math teacher, though.
Yeah. I'm gonna pass this question off after I answer it. I personally know of people that have done this, and no, I did not do anything to hurt their career. So I think eventually cream rises to the top, and they were dealt with accordingly, but not by the hands of me. And that's what I'll say on that. Anybody else want to comment or say anything? Kev?
No, when I first got on, there was one guy I knew who drank or worked. Right. That was a real rookie cop. And I got in the car with him. I was a rookie. I was on a foot post. His partner had something. So he picked me up. He started driving. He drove 3 blocks, passed out at a red light. I was like, tapped him on the shoulder, like, "Hey, look, I've never
Dude,
driven.
dude,
I've
dude.
never driven. You know, I don't get to drive that often. You know, the RMPs. Like, you mind if I drive?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure," and let me drive. And that was kind of how I dealt with it. But
Yeah.
that was in my first year. Like, I saw a lot of people early on. Like that, the days
What
of
about the ones
drinking.
that got coked up?
I never saw coked up. Dude.
Never saw that. That's it. See, you always take, you always
Always
taking
got
this
always.
shit to.
Yeah,
He always taking it to the fucking the Serpico shit. You know what I'm saying?
we were shooting heroin at roll call. What do you?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, dude.
Yeah,
You know?
yo, Ty Norm.
I smoked PCP. I shot heroin.
Yeah. Listen, Ty Norm, and have y'all ever
I never saw anyone while I was on patrol drinking on duty.
Of course not.
When we, but I could say I was an undercover, and as an undercover, when in the early late 90s, we drank while we worked. It was part of. It was part of.
We had
Did you get
liberties
coked
to
up?
do that. Yeah,
No, you don't get high.
What is up with this coke shit though?
Hey, but listen, if you undercover and you working around a coke bus and you supposed to be in that environment, they pass you that coke.
Yo,
and
Ty,
you
let me
take a hit.
get this. Let me get this. First, Rich, as there's protocols to undercovers getting high, right? I don't want to divulge too much because I don't know if there's still undercovers out there and what they do and how they do it. So there's certain things that I can tell you behind the scenes, but what I don't want to tell the world out there because I've never compromised what we've done as undercovers. And shout out to the show Roscoe and them had the undercover what was it? Rich Ty undercover untaped or so was it? What was the title?
Yeah, it was A&E, and it was on A&E, and they where they showed different cases that certain undercovers worked on.
Yeah, shout out to my guys Chuck, Manny, and rest in peace to the undercover. He got shot, right? He died and stuff. We was all working at that time, so it's just a sad state of affairs. But shout out to Chuck and not our Chuck, another Chuck, hell of an undercover that did his thing. Let me tell you something. Like Ty was saying, as an undercover, you had longitudes and latitudes that you could do, and things that you could do performing your duty. But trust me, if you inhaled rich, if you sniffed some cocaine or some shit like that, trust me, after that, there were some procedures that you would have to go through, right, Ty and Norm and Kev, that it would have been like, okay, you can't keep getting high talking about, oh, they made me do force injections and shit like that. Because next thing you know, you're not an undercover anymore.
Nah, you wouldn't be.
No, you wouldn't be an undercover.
If you can't,
Rich, you listening?
Part of being an undercover is being able to play the role and not be forced to do anything that you didn't want to do. And just like a regular person, if you're not a cop and you're going to cop drugs or whatever, I'm going to spend my money. How is someone forcing me to do something I don't want to do? And then, and if you're going to buy, and I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking because there's been plenty of scenarios where, you know, things are different, but you're going to buy, that person doesn't know who you're buying for, if you're buying for yourself and someone else. And if you're buying for someone else, I'm not touching that until I get around the person I'm with. I don't trust you enough to do that with you. You know, you come up with any excuse, but the point of the matter is, you didn't get high, but you drank to fall in the character at times or to help the character, and all of that stopped after Sean Bell.
Yeah, you know, we did 12-hour shifts, and when we worked the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., I know officers that would go to the restaurant and have meals and drink and go back to work. So I've seen officers that do it on the job, drink on the job. Some of them just become. Some of them. One officer told me he drink just to get through the night.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. Yo, Norm, I don't know about you, but let me tell you something. and Ty knows this, and Kev knows. Like when I was an undercover, I worked in the crack era, zombies. When I was an undercover, let me tell you something. To go out there, and I've always said this about the job, Rich. I want you to hear this because this is crazy about this. The job was crazy. They wanted a squeaky clean African American or Latino or Caucasian, and then they want you to go and play this role and go right back into the world that you tried so hard not to be. And because, and I don't know about Kev and stuff like that, but for African American, like they there was powers of that be that couldn't understand if you didn't get a buy that day. Like, what do you mean? You're black. You know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't get a buy. And then I had to tell a supervisor one time, it's like it's try money, it's not buy money, because you don't know what the feeling of a person is that you're buying a drug for. And then you got to find your niche and how you're able to penetrate a certain situation, from the big dude to the small cat on the corner. You know what I'm saying? And that can be very stressful. And then to come out there to understand that, listen, I'm playing a role, and you like, yo, at any given moment, this little punk, no matter what his ethnicity is, can test you. And you're trying to make a buy. Like, you got the pressure of a whole team on your back to make a buy. And you got the pressure of them dangling a shield. Listen, if you don't make this buy in 18 months, you won't get this shield. And then you trying to do anything in your power to get the shield. And it's a crazy world. It really is. People don't understand that kind of pressure. Let me tell you something. To be an undercover, it's not a pretty world. It really is not. I mean, you know, people always talk about I get it, I understand. You don't fucking get it until you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, unless you really can be a part of something like basketball. A person can't tell you about how it is to be on a team unless they've been on a team. You can't. And like, you know, I can't talk about hockey unless I've been on a hockey team with Kevin. So, you know what I'm saying? Or like climbing rocks and mountains and shit. I'm not fucking with Kevin on that shit. You know what I'm saying? But let me read some comments, man. I mean, Loving God said, "Are you saying they're working to stop crime? Are you saying they're working to stop crime while committing crime with immunity? Isn't that what we call con artists?" Anybody want to? Let one of y'all comment that. No, I'll take that before I go to the next question. Go
Let
ahead.
me say this. One day, not that long ago, I was speeding. I know I was speeding. When the state trooper came and pulled me over, he said, "Do you know how fast you were going?" I said, "Do you know how fast you were going? Because it took you longer to catch up to me if you'd have just let me go. So you broke the law to enforce the law." He said, "You have a good day, sir."
Mm,
So it just depends on the situation. As far as the four of us, Todd, Kev, Bill, you know we play a role. It's like we acting when we out there in the streets. And that's what we have to do. But it's sometimes it's hard to stay in character, sometimes it's not.
yeah, yeah.
But yes, we we don't break the law to enforce it, if that makes sense.
Mm. I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna come to Ty. I'm gonna come to Kev first, and then Ty. Uh, this is just a statement. Loving God says, "To the genuine good guy, we appreciate your efforts forever. Thank you." Sylvia has said her son was an explorer. Shout out to my man Walt. Tina Kingans in the building. Loving God says, "When did law enforcement?" I'm going to you, Kevin, with this one, and Ty. When did law enforcement start adhering to criminally used terms that represent criminal accessories to a crime?
I don't understand what that
Yeah,
means.
yeah, yeah.
I read that before too, and I didn't understand it.
I'll read it again. I don't know, Norm, if you could try it, because I sure don't have an answer to that. Loving God, maybe you might have to ask that question again. Rich, I don't know if you understand it, but you're not law enforcement, so I'm not going to
Read it again.
It says, when did law enforcement start adhering to criminally used terms that represent criminal accessory to a crime?
I believe a lot of that's coming from the rap music. You know, where they're using rap lyrics against these rappers to get these RICO cases going. That's what I'm thinking she's talking about, where they're saying, you know, the jewelry.
Well, I know trap music is a problem right now, and that's
Yeah.
very big. Trap music is a big problem. So what's
So
happening?
let me. Can I just
Yeah, go please,
capitalize
brother.
on that?
Yeah, go ahead, go please.
All right. So my office did a lot of those cases before I retired. Before you target, and they don't say this in the media, of course, because they may not really know. Before any of those rappers are targeted for any of the lyrics or anything that's going on in their songs, there's a group of usually gang members that are targeted before they even look at the rapper. So there's a group, there's a gang, there's a group out there that's actually committing violent acts, because that's the first crime, right, for the RICO. The second is that they're involved in some sort of intercommerce where they're making money off illegal trade, which is usually the drugs. And then they have the network where they're gang members or they're a group that's committing violent acts. So now during the investigation, and you're already targeting certain individuals, now all of a sudden they turn up associates or friends of certain rappers, and then they look at, because a lot of these rappers that have gotten arrested, a lot of the criminal acts and the acts of violence that they've talked about in their songs are actually crimes that have been committed. So now they take that and use that evidence in the RICO to charge them with. Because it's kind of hard to say, well, I didn't know anything about it, I didn't do this, and it's actually in your lyrics.
Okay.
So that's how that comes about.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any comments, questions before I go on to the next statement? Mark says, police and military personnel are only a small percentage of our population. The sample size is smaller, but these men and women are human. Mistakes are a part of the life, but law enforcement and military are held in a certain esteem. These mistakes are bad decisions, can lead to various types of punishment. Also, to all of you, thanks for your service to these streets and your community. I get that as all the time. My respect for the men and women who choose to keep the streets safe. Let me see if there's more to that. There's nothing. Let's see. Oops, hold on. There's nothing. Excuse me if I think YouTube doesn't allow people to run on with their statements and comments. So loving God also goes, he says, believing in and following the meaning of criminal terms and applying it to exposing crimes, and law enforcement is in essence covering up law enforcement crimes. He was piggybacking this off of what he was saying. I really don't know where he's going with this. I would love. Listen, I'm gonna step Real Talk Chronicles up. I'm gonna get a call in so people can say exactly what they want to say. Yo, Mark said this shit is funny. He said, "Could you imagine Ty and Rich on the court playing? Y'all be going at each other all the time."
No, I would bust Ty's ass. I would bust fucking ass.
Don't mistake the humbleness and the light skinnedness that I can't play, bro. All right.
I didn't say
if that was Mark Claxton that said that, believe me, he knows I could play.
I didn't say you couldn't play.
Yeah, all right.
I'm the motherfucker you call for the boogeyman.
I hear you. They always say the loudest one is the weakest one on the court anyway.
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's what they say. Rich.
Ain't that what they say? No,
man, I'm enjoying this. Ty, you're gonna be on every week.
Kev, let me tell you something. I said Ty took your place, bro.
I'm putting my feet up.
Yeah.
And just gonna sit back and watch.
But Rich,
let me read some more comments.
Now,
Hold
if Ty
on,
caught me out in the street, he probably handcuffed me and beat the shit out of me. But if I catch his ass on that basketball court.
Let me read some more comments. My man Eddie said, Eddie Vieira, what's up, bro? My brother is in the building. He said, I honestly know that it's a very delicate thing for an officer to speak about another officer actions. Bill, remember the time we got pulled over by a rookie officer and we had a few drinks out? Absolutely. I have no problems talking about that. Yo, let me tell you something. You know, Rich, let me just say this. And I'm saying Rich because Kev, Ty, and Norm knows this. This is the only job that once you leave the job, they don't care about you anymore. That when they talk about that, oh, you're my brother, and we're blue. Let me tell you something. Only the ones that have been taught right, and Ty and Kev and Norm knows what I'm talking about. When I say taught right, you pull a former law enforcement over, yo, you give him respect. Yo, okay, my bad. Go ahead. Get out of here. As long as you ain't disrespecting the uniform. But there's a new wave that comes in, and they'll be like, oh, well, I never forget. I pulled a guy. I was like, I'm on a job. He looked at my ID. He said, no, you're retired. What does that mean, bro? I've seen officers to this day give more respect to the person that's in military, a military uniform. Give him more respect to the person that did the same job that he did. And then you like, yo, why you just disrespectful to me? You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to sit here and make me talk about where you're coming from, what you're doing. What Eddie's talking about, I'm going to tell you the story real quick because I want to move on. We coming from another one of our family, our brother's spots. He was security at a nightclub. We coming home on the West Side Highway. Go ahead, Kev. On the West Side Highway. Pulls me over. I'm hitting it. I'm going. Pulls me over. Boop, boop, boop. So I pull up. I was like, yeah, what's good? He's like, yo, what's the speed limit? I'm like, 30. He was like, well, where were you going? I don't know. He said, you was going 50. I said, okay. He was like, you was drinking? I was like, yeah.
You showed him your ID and he asked you all that?
Yo, Jackson, yo, Ty, I'm telling you.
Really?
Yo, so I'm like, yo, I'm on a job.
Wow.
He's like, nah, you retired. I was like, what?
So what does that mean?
I said, yo. He said, you drinking? I said, yeah, I was drinking. He was like, so he said, if I give you a breathalyzer test, I bet you'll fail it. I said, no, I won't. He said, yes, you would. I said, no, I won't. He said, why wouldn't you fail it? Because I said, I wouldn't fucking take it. So he was like, what? I said, I wouldn't take it. So then I was like, yo, wait a minute. Where's this going? Yeah. I showed you my ID. Now his partner walks away. So I'm like, yo, my man, where are you going? So then he starts asking Eddie and the other brother in the back. He's like, yo, I don't think you should drive. I'm like, okay, but where are we going with this? He was like, can you just let them drive? I said, all right, I let him drive. He eventually lets us go. Eddie's my witness. We in the meatpacking district 2 weeks later, a week and a half later,
same
partying.
time.
We coming out, smoke a cigarette, whatever. Who do I see? The same punk, right? I said, Ed, I got to step to this cat, right? Ed said, B, don't please. I know how you get. I said, yo, Ed, I got it. I'm gonna be tactful. I stepped to old boy. I said, yo, my man, you remember me? He does the
nah.
I said, yo, you just pulled me over a week and a half ago, whatever, on the West Side Highway, 50th Street. You was on some take the breathalyzer, to take the test or whatever. It's like, oh, I said, yo, what's up with all that? So now I'm pressing him. I'm pressing him in uniform. I'm like, yo, what's all that? What's all that? I DMX'd him. Yo, what's up? You know what I'm saying? So now dude is like, yo, I'm sorry. You never know who's watching. I say, yo, my man, No one was watching. Why was you pressing me like that? Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I respect what you did already. I said, yo, man, go ahead, man. I just said, yo, get off this post. Like, go somewhere, go somewhere else. Like, yo, he caught my feelings, Rich. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, you stressing me out.
That's the 10th precinct.
Yo, listen, the 6th
Hey,
precinct
Kev,
or whatever the
anything like
precinct
that
was.
ever
6 or
happened to you?
10?
Yeah, the 10, Rich. Yeah, the 10 tie. You're right.
10. Yeah.
Listen, I got pulled over in the 3-0, my own precinct. I knew the officer. He pulled me over. He was like, oh, I was backing up, to get a parking spot. He was like, oh, if it wasn't you, you would have got a ticket. Yo, wait a minute. You know what community we in. Parking spots are hard to come by. Like, you're going to stress a person out from, backing up a little, 2 cars to get a parking space? Like, yo, some people lose their minds when it comes to this job. And then all of a sudden, it's just about right in the community, man. It's crazy. Eddie said, yo, Bill, you handled it very delicately and different night while us out again and spotted him. See, he said spotted him on duty and called him on his. Yeah, exactly. I tell you, I don't tell a story unless somebody can co-sign it. I addressed that dude. D, what's up, D? She says, we give a lot in the line of duty. I agree. We have to run into danger when others run away. Absolutely. Loving God said, Forster, please scroll up to my other questions. I see you. She says the rookie. She says the rookie. D says the rookie would be severely punished if he said something people had no idea what's behind the blue wall. Absolutely. I think people have to understand that blue wall is real official. And I understand that blue wall is more dangerous in the blue than outside. What people think of the outside world is totally different. But that blue wall is totally different. Mark said, Rich, a big salute to you. A big salute to you, and absolutely thank you for your service to our children. Gaylord says, with law enforcement becoming more unattractive, how effective is community policing, and could it work in today's society? I'll start with you, Kev. I go to you, Ty. I go to you, Norm, and then I'll come to you, Rich. Give me 2 minutes. I just want to get out of here. We have a few more minutes to rock out. So go ahead. Go ahead, Kev.
Look, community policing can always work, right? You should always engage and talk to people. I think it's one of the mistakes we had ourselves put into. Like, you go back to even being like an anti-crime cop, a SNU cop. I think once a month, once every other month, we should have been forced to go to the school and sit and talk with kids within the precinct and get to really know the community you're working in. Community police could always work. It's how you implement it.
Absolutely.
Right? That's it.
Thank you. Ty?
Community policing is a great tool if it's used properly. Community policing is not just standing on the corner and holding hands and talking on your cell phone. Community policing is actually interacting with the community, whether it's received from the community or not. You have to try and communicate with the community while you're out there, whether you're in a car or on a foot post.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ty. Go ahead, Norm.
Yeah, before I answer that question, I just want to say this. Rich, leave my man Ty alone. He look like Scottie Pippen. He's a quiet assassin. He'll kill you in the court.
Thank you, Norm.
So leave him alone. Leave him alone on that. But anyway, as far as the community policing, like Ty said, I think if we get more involved in the community, have community outreaches and just get back into the community and let them know our faces. But our higher ups have to put the same officers in those communities. When we were growing up, we knew the officer in our community. So we got familiar with them. And that's what these kids need. They need a familiar face on a regular basis. So yeah, it can work. It's going to take a lot of work, but in the long run, I believe it's worth it.
Yeah. Let me come to you, Rich. Because I want to read the best many comments I can. So give me your thought on community policing.
I agree with what Ty said. Yes. Right. Now, the other part is just because Ty bust your ass, you can't put him in the court with me and think he gonna bust my ass.
Well, listen.
I characterize both of you motherfuckers.
Let me tell you something. Yo, Norm is 6'8", and I've learned when I was playing with Norm in college, I made sure I gave him the ball and make him happy. No, Rich, you 6'5" or 6'6"?
6'5".
You 6'5"? I learned that I would give you the ball too. But I'm just going to say this. I'm going to make this easy for everybody, and Norm knows this to be true. I'm going to give it to you. You pass it back out. I'm going to give it to you again to see if you're comfortable. If you pass it back out to my black ass again, I'm going to shoot it. That's it.
Shoot it.
That's it.
Hey, Bill, I don't need you to give me the ball.
Okay.
See, that's
all right.
Between me and them two dudes. They need you to give them the ball.
Yo, well, somebody got to bring the ball up court. You bringing up the ball too?
Oh, no question.
Can I just say one thing? And
no. You had to move. Just bro.
Just to move on.
I know talking ball too. Go ahead.
Bill,
forget about it. Forget about balling. To capitalize on what Norm said, right? There is a way that if they really dug into it, how they can critique the community policing is being done, other than getting feedback from the community. And as a training sergeant or a training officer, they could send, when they send them out there, say, look, you have to come back each day while you're out with at least 3 names of people that you interacted with, and tell me a little something about them. And that's it. 3. You mean to tell me in a whole tour you can't get 3 names, and you don't have to take their name down. You take it to memory and write it down later if you got to say. And what was it about them? Was it someone who was going to school? Was it a lady who was going in the building and you decided to help her with her groceries? Something to that effect. And that's a start. I'm not saying it's the end all, the be all, but that's a start.
But you're absolutely right. But I'm gonna tell you something. In my district right now, the PSA 6 32nd precinct, they've had basketball games against the kids in the community, right? Mm-hmm. Chess tournaments. Mm-hmm. We're about to do a Harlem Dog Show, right? Where we're getting the people in the community to have pets and stuff like that to come out and do a fashion show with the dogs and all of that.
Okay, that's nice.
I mean,
that's good.
It's a lot of different initiatives that the community community affairs department is collaborating with what they call stakeholders, people in the community. Right there on 135th Street, right across the street from the precinct, Big Russ Barbershop.
That's
he
my
started
man.
a barber school.
Yeah.
Right.
They're doing a lot more now than they ever have
with the police to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
So they're coming in contact with the community in different ways, and that's how you bridge these gaps. You're not going to be able to touch everybody. You got some people that's just stuck on how they feel about policing and police officers, and from their own experiences or what they've seen, or just simply because they on one side and you on another side.
Yeah.
And
it's let me read some more comments before we get out of here. We got a few minutes, and I know Kev, I know you're not going to be with us for the next 2 weeks, but other fellows will be. Everybody, that's why sometimes, let me just say this, I appreciate sometimes when we have volume, it's great. I don't know who's going to be with me and who's not going to be with me, but I extend the olive branch. So when they all here, it's a blessing to me. Sometimes it may take a longer for them to I always want my people to articulate themselves and say it in that manner. But when they're not here, I have to extend the olive branch to all my hosts, because I don't know which host is going to be here and not be here, because certain things come up and not. So I appreciate all of you for being here at the time that you are here. Let me just read. Shout out to D-Mans, Marcel. Thank you for your services. She said there's a difference between nature and nurture. Nature being your environment and what you see around that impacts your life. Nurture being what it was instilled in you from family and community leadership. Absolutely. Derek Rock is in the building. He said Carnegie. He said definitely drinking while on duty, only at details and only at details and parades. Definitely in narcotics. Absolutely. Eddie said, my brother Eddie Vieira said, he said, I like to say that I honestly believe that generation of officers today in New York City are generally more honest, honorable, and professional than, let's say, the 70s. Absolutely. I'll say that too. Loving God said, my next comment after that is what I'm talking about, the term rat. Okay, I got you. Loving God, I always appreciate you for your input and honesty. Vera with the wonderful last name, Forster. I see you, Darren Joseph. He said the officer was doing his job. I get that he should have respected your ID, but he thought you were under. He did the right thing, asking someone else to. Yo, Darren, kiss his. He can kiss my black. You know what? You know what I'm saying? Listen, he ain't think shit. He was punk. You know what I'm saying? I'll tell him to his face. And Eddie's on here. He can tell you. That's my man. Darren and I used to work in security at ABC. You know what I'm saying? He always find a little nice way out. Listen, that punk dude, Darren, let me tell you something. The only reason why he said that is because he asked me, I was drinking rum, which I don't drink. I don't drink dark liquor. I had rum that night, and I had a to-go cup, and it was sitting right there. And he said, "You drinking?" And I said, "Yeah, it's right here." You know what I'm saying? I was real gangster with it, B. And then he was like, "Oh, well, I think you drunk." I said, "No, I'm not drunk." And he said, "Yeah, I think you are." He said, I bet you if I give you a breathalyzer that you'll fail. I said, "No, I wouldn't." He said, "Well, yes, you would." I said, "No, I wouldn't." He said, "Why?" Because I said I wouldn't take it. And I was like, "Yo," I said, "Where we going with this, dog? Like, yo, you stressing me out. Like, you taking me off my high." I'd have been sober by the time I took that breathalyzer. I had a little buzz. I will admit it. But loving God said, Jesus said, "Go and sin no more." D said, "Thank you guys. I appreciate this forum. Absolutely." D, I'm gonna bring you in on one time whenever you welcome. Everybody, come on. Norm, Rich, give me some positive affirmation. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. We'll pick up again about what we on our last topic about the youth. That is very important. That we will still want to talk about that next week. And whoever's here, we'll talk about that youth. But Rich, I'll start with you. Give us some positive affirmation. Kev, Ty, and then Norm, and then I'll put this out. Go ahead.
Well, positive affirmation. I mean, I'm here, man. I'm here to do the job, man. I mean, it don't never end, man. I'm retired just like y'all, but I'm still working, man. As long as there's a need, I'm going to try to fill it. I got to try to be a blessing to somebody.
You are my brother, and that's why I love you and I appreciate you, and that's why you with me. I ride with you, you ride with me. Because let me tell you something, your input and insight is fun. You like getting it under the skin of everybody, and I love it. Yo, Richard, get under your skin, baby. Listen, everybody, I'm gonna bring him to the community council meetings because I know he's gonna tear up some shit. That's my guy right there. Yeah, Cam, give us some positive love.
This is what it's about, right? You got to be out talking, people.
Yeah,
we can all agree at times to disagree, but you got to talk and you got to hear. You got to hear each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Life is short. Spend some time with family.
Yeah.
Be out there. Take care of yourself. You guys know I get out in the mountains. That's my thing. That's how I take care of myself.
Oh yeah. You got
find your thing. Find your thing.
You got one of them bunkers out there?
Yo, listen. Yo, don't let Cam take you do it up in the mountains, babe. She's gone. She's gone. She's gonna come back. She's hypnotized. Ty, give us some positive affirmation, some love, brother.
I enjoyed being on here with you guys, and just remember, we live life on levels and arrive in stages, and those stages can take us through many experiences and introduce us to many relationships. Have a good night, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Norm, give us some positive love, brother.
Hey, I love you guys. You're my brothers. God put you here for a reason. And I thank God each and every day for you. So just be strong. And God willing, Kevin, be safe up in the woods. Sasquatch is coming out. It's getting cold. So you guys just be safe in everyday life. Richard, it ain't nothing but jokes, baby. We love you. Looking like Shaft.
Damn right.
That's right. She's a bad mother. But I love you guys, and I hope to see you guys next week. Bill, we talk every so often.
Absolutely,
I
Captain.
appreciate you, my brother. My brother. I just
I
want to say
appreciate
this real quick. Bill, do you remember when you was working at ABC Studios and me and you was going to a party or something one day, and I came up there and you said, "Look here, man, you can't be fucking the movie stars." I was trying to holler at Susan Lucci. I was trying to holler at Susan Lucci. You was like, "Leave them girls alone."
Exactly. Darren Joseph was working with me back then too. Exactly. That's why I don't know what you're talking about. Listen.
Hey, it was good times. We had good times, and I look forward to making more good times with all you brothers.
Hey, Norm, you was trying to screw that old lady?
She wasn't old
She
then.
wasn't. She
Man,
wasn't
she was
old.
old enough to
She
be your
wasn't old
mother
in
back
83, in 82,
Yeah,
83.
she
She was
was
young
older
and
than me,
tender.
but she wasn't old then.
then.
But I
Yo,
love you
everybody,
guys.
this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. That's Kevin Branzetti. That's Ty Butler. That's Norman Davis. That's Richard Williams. Listen, subscribe, like. The first and foremost, you see what we do. We give you authentic conversation, real talk. Nothing is scripted. You don't know what anybody's gonna say about here. We tell you uncut, behind the scenes stories of what has actually happened to all of us personally and things of that. The bottom line is we've all come together collectively to try to make the world a better place. Understand that. And if you believe in that, then share this podcast, because there are people out here that are doing things that are not beneficial to yourselves. They're beneficial to what they do and what they believe in. But all of us here together. So when you hear somebody say that people don't come together to try to make this world a better place, you're a lie. You got Real Talk Chronicles. So when I say all that, foster the moment with positive vibes only. Until next week, we'll see you. All right, we out of here. If y'all want to hear that story, I'll tell you in a minute.